Yeah.
They're really going to offer for it.
Good morning. My name is Amanda Hayes, and my pronouns are she, her, and I serve this congregation as your Justice Coordinator. On behalf of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus, welcome. We acknowledge that we live on the ancestral lands of the Adena, Hopewell, Wyandotte, Miami, Seneca, Erie, and Cayuga people. May we pledge to remember and learn from our history, lest we forget what happens when we do not respect the inherent worth and dignity of all. And now please rise in body or in spirit with us to sing together our opening hymn, number 1054, Let This Be a House of Peace. That is in your teal hymnal, and if you're looking at the hymnal, we're just singing verses 1, 2, and 4. The words will also be on the screen.
this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of prophecy. May vision for our children be our common theme. Let this be our house of myth and lore and legend, our trove of ancient story and cradle of our tender dream. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace.
Good morning. I am Jan Phillips, and I am one of the co-chairs of your Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are she, her, they. Welcome to First UU. We are so glad that you are here. Whether you are joining us online or here in the worship center in person, whether this is your first time or it be your 100th time visiting us, we welcome you. If this is your first time visiting with us, be sure to stop by the greeter stand in the hallway to receive your first time visitor gift, if you have not already gotten one. We invite everyone to know that you are here today by scanning the QR code on your order of service or on the screen. Here you can also find an order of service, our joys and sorrows form, and our donations page. We have two reminders this morning. The first is, don't forget that our mid-year meeting is right after this service. We will need a quorum, so please plan on sticking around. You will need to leave the worship center and come back in through the gallery. And as you come in, please check in with our quorum counting greeters so that they can mark you present, okay? If you are going to be Zooming in for the meeting, the Zoom will open at 12:30. And our second announcement is that it is time to hear from our rummage team. Yay.
Good morning. My name is Myra Hartman, and I am a member of the First UU Rummage Sale team. We need you to make this sale a success. First, we need your gently used, clean items for the sale. The complete list of donations is on the rummage sale table in Beach Hall, and there will be an email again this week with our list, as well as on the First UU website. Be ready to drop off your items Monday, March 20th through Thursday, March 24th between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. and 5 to 7 p.m. Secondly, we need volunteers to help receive these items, to set up our tables, to manage the tables during the sale, clean up after the sale, and maybe bring in some baked goods. Please see us at the rummage sale table in Beach Hall or contact Marilyn McDonald. Where is she? She's not here, oh no. Via the weekly rummage sale email. Third, please attend the rummage sale on Saturday, March 25th from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. Enjoy those baked goods and buy some unexpected treasures. The proceeds benefit the church, but the activity and the camaraderie benefit each of us individually and as church members. So our motto, ready, set, rummage! Thank you.
Thank you, Myra. We would now like to invite any children who want to help bring in the light to meet Nikki back in the back of the sanctuary. Everyone else, please join me in centering ourselves as we listen to this morning's prelude.
It is now time for our children to bring in the light. Our chalice lighting words this morning are from 459 in our gray hymnal. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands.
Thank you, Simone, for lighting our chalice this morning. Due to the holiday weekend, there are no Sunday school classes today other than toddler sitting, coming of age, and navigators. Families are invited to get a busy bag from out in the gallery, utilize the We Worship area, as well as Slaughter Lounge, and check out the games and art supplies in A and B, or explore the playground if you need a break from the service. To learn more about our family programs, please email our Director of Religious Exploration, Amber Scott, at amber@firstucolumbus.org. Today's story is called City's Secrets, written by Naomi Shihab Nye and illustrated by Nancy Carpenter. My grandmother lives on the other side of the earth. When I have daylight, she has night. When our sky grows dark, the sun is peeking through her window and brushing the bright lemons on her lemon tree. I think about this when I am going to sleep. Your turn, I say. Between us are many miles of land and water. Between us are fish and cities and buses and fields and presidents and clotheslines and trucks and stop signs and signs that say, "Do not enter," and grocery stores and benches and families and deserts and a million trees. Once, I went to visit my grandmother. My grandmother and I do not speak the same language. We talked through my father as if he were a telephone, because he spoke both our languages and could translate what we said. I called her Sidi, which means grandma in Arabic. She called me Habibi, which means darling. Her voice danced as high as the whistles of birds. Her voice giggled and whooshed like wind going around corners. She had 1,000 rivers in her voice. A few curls of dark hair peeked out of her scarf on one side, and a white curl peeked out on the other side. I wanted her to take off the scarf so I could see if her hair was striped. Soon, we had invented our own language together. Sidi pointed at my stomach to ask if I was hungry. I pointed at the door to find out if she wanted to go outside. We walked to the fields to watch men picking lentils. We admired the sky with hums and claps. We crossed the road to buy milk from a family that kept one spotted cow. I called the cow Habibi, and it winked at me. We thanked the cow with whistles and clicks for the fresh milk that we carried home in City's little teapot. Every day I played with my cousins, Fauzi, Sammy, Hani, and Hendia from next door. We played marbles together in their courtyard. The marbles were green and blue and spun through with the dust like planets. We didn't need words to play marbles. My grandmother lives on the other side of the earth. She eats cucumbers for breakfast with yogurt and bread. She bakes the big, flat bread in a round old oven next to her house. A fire burns in the middle. She pats the dough between her hands and presses it out to bake on a flat black rock in the center of the oven. My father says that she has been breaking that bread for 100 years. My grandmother and I sat under her lemon tree in the afternoons drinking lemonade with mint in it. She liked me to pick bunches of mint for her. She liked to press her nose into the mint and sniff. Some days we stuffed little zucchini squash with rice for dinner. We sang, "Habibi, Habibi," as we stacked them in the pan. We cracked almonds and ate apricots called mish mish while we worked. One day, City took off her scarf and shook out her hair. She washed her hair in a tub right there under the sun. Her hair surprised me by being very long, and it was striped. She said it got that way all by itself. I helped her brush it out while it dried. She braided it and pinned the braid up before putting on the scarf again. I felt as if I knew a secret. In the evenings, we climbed the stairs to the roof of City's house to look at the sky, smell the air, and take down the laundry. My grandmother likes to unpin the laundry in the evening so she can watch the women of the village walking back from the spring with jugs of water on their heads. She used to do that too. My father says the women don't really need to get water from the spring anymore, but they like to. It is something from the old days that they don't want to forget. On the day my father and I had to leave, everyone cried and cried. Even my father kept blowing his nose and walking outside. I cried hard when City held my head against her shoulder. My cousins gave me a sack of almonds to eat on the plane. City gave me a small purse she had made. She had stitched a picture of her lemon tree onto the purse with shiny thread. She popped the almonds into my purse and pulled the drawstrings tight. Our plane flew to the other side of the world. I remember the tattoos on my grandmother's hands. They look like birds flying away. My father says she has had those tattoos for 100 years. I think about City's old green trunk in the middle of her room. It has a padlock on it. She wears the key on a green ribbon around her neck. She keeps my grandfather's rings in there, and her gold thread and needles, and pieces of folded up blue velvet from old dresses, and 2 small leather books, and a picture of my father before he came to the United States, and a picture of my parents on their wedding day, and a picture of me when I was a baby, smiling and very fat. Did I really look like that? When I got home, I wrote a letter to the President of the United States. Dear Mr. President, my grandmother on the other side of the world has a lemon tree that whispers secrets. She talks to it and gives it water from her own drinking glass. She guesses the branch where her lemons will grow next. All the old men and women of her village take good care of their trees. Some have fig trees with shiny leaves. Some have almond trees covered with white blossoms that fall down on the road like snow. Last night, when I watched the news on TV, I felt worried. If the people of the United States could meet City, they'd like her for sure. You'd like her too. My grandmother can read the stars and the moon and the clouds. She can read dreams and the tea leaves at the bottom of a cup. She even said that she read "Good luck" on my forehead. Mr. President, I wish you my good luck in your very hard job. I vote for peace. My grandmother votes with me. Sincerely, Mona. Does my grandmother know what will happen in the world? Does the world have a forehead? Sometimes I think the world is a huge body tumbling in space, all curled up like a child sleeping. People are far apart, but all connected. My grandmother lives on the other side of the earth. While I am dreaming, she rises from her fluffy bed and steps out her door to check the lemons growing on her tree. The first thing she does every morning is say good morning to her lemons. All day, the leafy shadow of her tree will grow and change on her courtyard wall. She will move with its shade. When she sleeps, she will dream of me. The end. Mona and her grandmother find common ground in love, even though their lives are very different. And even from half a world away, Mona takes action by writing a letter to the president. As we consider love at the center of UU values, let us also remember the effects our beliefs and actions can have, both globally and locally. I now invite the congregation to form a sheltering arc of love as we sing our young people back to their families and to their seats. Beneath our arms we shelter you. You warm our hearts as you pass through. May our love guide you as you go, to love you learn and love you grow.
Softly falls the rain, heavy clouds below. My boots were made to stay, but my feet were made to roam. The silver maple sings with rhythm of my heart, and flows an ancient song some sage did me impart. The cannons are silent, no drum or the hand-drum, just the sound of rain and summer wheat. I dance to beauty, I dance to laughter, beyond the pine wood, through furrowed fields.
Good morning. My name is Reverend Kelly McNeil. My pronouns are she, her, and I serve this congregation as Minister of Congregational Life. Our reading this morning is entitled, We Are One by Hope Johnson. We are one, a diverse group of proudly kindred spirits, here not by coincidence, but because we choose to journey together. We are active and proactive. We care deeply. We live our love as best we can. We are one, working, eating, laughing, playing, singing, storytelling, sharing, and rejoicing, getting to know each other, taking risks, opening up, questioning, seeking, searching, trying to understand, struggling, making mistakes, paying attention, asking questions, listening, living our answers, learning to love our neighbors, learning to love ourselves, apologizing and forgiving with humility, and being forgiven through grace, creating the beloved community together. We are one. Please remain seated as we sing together hymn number 1058, Be Ours a Religion.
Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple of space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love.
I grew up in the small truck stop town of Sydney, Ohio. Interstate 75 runs right through the town, and we had the standard road of all the fast food options that you could possibly want. Surrounding us were even smaller rural farm towns where you could drive and see nothing but an occasional farmhouse surrounded by corn. When I was at Ohio State, I met a girl who grew up in one of those towns, and when I told her I was from Sydney, she responded, "Oh, you're from the city." When I asked her why she considered Sydney a city, she responded, "Well, you have the Walmart." As you can imagine, looking back at my childhood now, I realize that I grew up in a cornfield bubble. I was surrounded by people who looked like me, who believed like me, who thought like me. And it's still pretty much like that even today. When I was informed that I had been brainwashed simply because of my time in college outside of the bubble, I wasn't too surprised. Going to Ohio State, meeting so many new and different people, I experienced a massive transformation in my thinking process. I no longer existed in that echo chamber of common thought and belief. I was taught how to think critically, and I learned the art of asking questions. And to many who still live in Sydney, this transformation must mean that I have been brainwashed, because why else would I now think differently and act differently? Transformation, by its very nature, can be scary. By simple definition, transformation is a dramatic change in form or appearance. Someone goes off to college, and when they return on summer break, they seem like a totally different person. But transformation isn't something to fear. It's happening all around us all the time. If I go a couple of months without seeing Amanda's 1-year-old son, River, I find myself stopping in my tracks when I do see him because he's changed so much. At some point this spring, I'll drive into the church and suddenly flowers will have appeared beside the road, transforming the landscape, which is amazing and exciting, and it's change. Family systems theory explains that a system craves homeostasis. It craves staying the same. So when one part of a system changes, it throws the whole system off balance, and that system in turn will do everything it can to prevent that change from happening so that it can return to that state of homeostasis. It's an inherent, ingrained survival mechanism. It's an amoral phenomenon. Its sole purpose is helping us to survive. A few days ago, I was listening to the UU Church of the Larger Fellowships podcast, The View, with 2 U's, of course, and they were discussing Article 2 and the proposed changes to the Unitarian Universalist Association's bylaws. One of the co-hosts said, Unitarian Universalism is a faith of running water. What I think they meant by this is that we are a living tradition. We try to continue to learn from our own experiences, from those around us, from prophetic voices from our history and today. This co-host continued this analogy by cautioning that if our faith tradition, like water, sits still, fails to embrace and continue moving along our quest for transformation, it develops mosquitoes. In water, these mosquitoes congregate, making the lives of those who are nearby miserable with their buzzing and biting. In a faith, that this stagnation breeds an environment for hostility, for seeing any signs of transformation as annoyance and something that we need to be protected against. As UUs, we talk a lot about being a living tradition, a faith of covenant as opposed to a common creed. I remember feeling really proud when I realized that I had the whole Apostles' Creed memorized when I was growing up in the Catholic Church. I could stand and recite it from memory with all the other attendees each Sunday morning. But the thing is, I didn't really know what it meant. I didn't know why we were reciting it. I knew that the words coming out of my mouth were saying, I believe, but I couldn't articulate why I believed that or why we recited it each Sunday or even if I believed it at all. Reverend Lisa Ward states, a creed creates a static truth, something that does not incorporate new insights and realities. It seeks uniformity and a unison voice. It is a prescription that must be relied on. Creeds, by nature, tend not to change very much. They aren't supposed to. Because why would we want to change our statement of belief when our beliefs themselves don't really change? The Apostles' Creed, for example, is believed to have been written as a statement of faith sometime around the 5th century and has remained virtually unchanged. In contrast, a covenant is the framework for our relating. It leaves room for chance and change. It is humble toward evolution. It claims, I will abide with you in this common endeavor, be present as best as I can in our becoming. It calls for a level of trust, courage, and sacrifice that needs to be nurtured, renewed, and affirmed on a regular basis. covenants are living things. They are expected to grow and change as we grow and change. Can you imagine UUs reciting something that has gone unchanged since the 5th century? Now, I'm going to admit to you something that a UU minister probably isn't supposed to admit. The more I teach our new member classes and we review the difference between a covenant and a creed, and then we move on to the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism, which you can now see on the screen, the more I have become convinced that our principles have become our creed. No, the opening line to the principles isn't "I believe" or "we believe," but when we talk about what Unitarian Universalists believe, we often recite the principles. It has become difficult for me to explain why the principles are different from a creed, especially as our world has become more and more polarized. When I first found Unitarian Universalism, it felt truly as if you could be a UU and have a wide spectrum of beliefs. I knew that our churches were full of people along what I understood at the time as the political spectrum. I knew that we didn't need to think exactly alike to say that we all affirm and promote the principles. I taught classes on the principles in which each participant had a different understanding of what each principle meant to them. But as our society has transformed into one in which it is now somehow okay to say the quiet part out loud, those things that used to be hidden deep in the dark web of the internet now appear to be okay being said in the halls of Congress, in school boards, in classrooms. Our congregations have also become more polarized. I had conversations with people who left this church because they felt they were no longer welcomed, because they identified as socially liberal but fiscally conservative, and they felt that this was no longer welcome here. I've seen this play out all over our country. Conversations that I used to have with UUs about the diversity of belief of what each of the principles themselves mean have shifted into conversations that often no longer have that level of nuance. And to me, this all makes sense. When the world around us seems to be changing so quickly, so drastically, in ways that scare us and we may feel out of control, we tend to find those things that we can cling to because they bring us comfort. For many of us, I believe those are the principles. And more frequently, I hear a more rigid and static understanding of our principles. And what makes me nervous about this was articulated beautifully on that podcast. One of the co-hosts said, "When our language has become too holy to adjust, then it has become our creed." Now, I know that I could be proven wrong, that maybe this is completely off base and no one else in this room feels this way, and that's great. If I pretended to have all of the answers and that I had nothing else to learn, I think I'd be proven wrong in the first 10 minutes that I was awake in the morning. But for me, it was in coming to this realization that the principles have become pretty close to a creed that I realized why the proposed change from 7 principles to 6 values really resonates. The first is simply the layout. The 7 principles read as a list of big ideas. While they have signs of action, they almost feel like they've become more passive goals of systemic outcomes or beliefs of which we want to work towards. Maybe it's because they all share what feels like a big concept of covenanting to affirm and promote. But in contrast, the 6 values are connected and distinct, and they read as actions, active values that connect us in community and remind us that there is work to be done now. We honor the interdependent web of all existence. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We adapt to the changing world. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. But that's not all. They don't stop there. The other reason why these proposed changes resonate with me is because they expand and make it clear the power and importance of the covenant that these values exist within. They lay out in clear language that each of these values of Unitarian Universalism requires us to remain in covenant within our relationships with one another, with the congregation, and with the wider world. If we compare the seventh principle with the value of interdependence, we see that they look pretty similar. Respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part, compared to we honor the interdependent web of all existence. It's the second part of the value statements that have me the most excited. We covenant to cherish Earth and all beings by creating and nurturing relationships of care and respect. With humility and reverence, we acknowledge our place in the great web of life, and we work to repair harm and damaged relationships. Each of the 6 values have value statements that expand on the values themselves. Not only do these value statements remind us that we are a covenanted faith tradition, a faith tradition that leaves room for chance and change, leaves room for making mistakes, for growing and learning and coming back together. They provide insight into what this covenant can look like. It looks like creating and nurturing relationships of care and respect, acknowledging our place in the web of life, working to repair harm and damaged relationships. And just as we talked about 2 weeks ago, this doesn't provide definitions or tell us exactly what it means, but it does make it clear that our faith cannot be stagnant. Relationships are not built because we can all recite a statement of belief. Relationships are built in the messiness of being human beings together. It is in the creating and nurturing of our relationships that we practice covenant, that we practice honoring the interdependent web of all existence. There is no final point in time when we can look around and say, well, we've made it, our work is done, because that is not what it means to be human. Being human beings means that we grow and we change and we transform, that we learn from one another, striving to be our best selves, but knowing that we are always works in progress. None of us is perfect. Being human in the context of Unitarian Universalism feels freeing to me. I feel like I could stand up here and tell you that I don't have all the answers, that I'm going to make mistakes, that I know I'm not going to be the same person a year from now or 2 years from now. I know that I can count on you calling me back into relationship when I mess up, and that you'll leave space for my transformational work within myself to happen. And I know that if what I believe today doesn't match what I believe next week, that you will sit down with me and help me explore, because that is what we are called to do as UUs. The proposed Article 2 changes make it clear that love is at the center of our faith. But what the 6 values draw out for us is that our faith calls for transformational work. Transformational work is not always easy, it's not always fun, but it can be exciting, especially when it happens in an environment that places value on this work. What we have to do today is ask ourselves who we want to be. Do we want to build a stronger bubble around ourselves, pushing transformational work aside so that we can maintain the status quo? Or do we want to be a faith tradition that is like flowing water, alive and powerful, nurturing and comforting, but strong in our resolve to transform the world around us and ourselves? Today, we get to practice as we come together for our mid-year meeting, taking the life and future of First UU in our hands and proceeding into the future. Today is a perfect day to ask ourselves who we want to be. I'm excited to explore that question with you all. May we lean into the transformational work that keeps our faith tradition moving forward. Amen. Blessed be.
Can you hear me now? Great. Our Share the Plate for February is People's Justice Project. Founded in 2014, the People's Justice Project, or PJP, builds the power of Black and brown people who are disproportionately impacted by state violence, mass criminalization, and incarceration by centering community organizing and leadership development. People's Justice Project has supported the families of Casey Goodson Jr., Andre Hill, Makia Bryant, and many others killed by local police as part of their work for change. First UU has partnered with PJP in multiple ways since 2016, from providing meeting space to showing up to actions to doing research on Columbus policing. We hope to continue and strengthen our relationship. Please use the QR code, text the number on the screen, or go to our website, firstucolumbus.org, and click the Donate tab to share as you feel called and are able. Our offering will now be gratefully received. Thank you for your generosity.
Good morning. My name is Reverend Kathleen Fowler, and I am privileged to serve as your Minister of Pastoral Care here. Recalling Kelly's words that our Unitarian Universalist faith, being a living faith, is calling us to transform our principles and purposes. For your consideration this morning, I give you John O'Donohue's poem, A New Beginning. In out-of-the-way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness grow inside of you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered. Hear the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight when your courage kindled and out you stepped into new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination is not clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning that is at one with your heart's and life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. This morning, we hold up former President Jimmy Carter, age 98, the longest living president in the United States, has decided to forego medical treatment and will enter hospice care at home due to metastasized cancer. After his one term, he dedicated himself to service, helping to build houses for habitat and fighting for human rights and democracy. He and Rosalind have been married for 75 years. May all who face the end of life do so with peace. We hold up the allocation of $1.2 million of Columbus City's operating budget to pilot a non-police response program for nonviolent service calls, including mental health and including mental health and substance abuse issues. The community advocacy group, Columbus Safety Collective, states that although the amount was below their original request, it is a step in the right direction. May justice prevail in policing here in Columbus and across the world. We hold up with persistence, belief, and luck. A Portland, Oregon senior tracked down a Japanese family based on the photos left behind in an album her late husband plucked from the shrapnel-strewn beaches of Okinawa in 1945. Many odd coincidences lined up until 7 decades later, the deceased soldier's family handed the album to the Japanese younger sister of the young woman who had made the photo album. With this gift, the deceased soldier's son was gratified, feeling so close to his dad. He was humbled and astonished by his dad's huge heart, noting that even the violence of war didn't change his love of family. May we all remember the interconnectedness that unites us across even decades and miles. And I just want to give you a couple sentences about groups that are going on at this church in case you're not aware of them. So First UU provides groups that offer a way to connect with others in similar situations. Our caregivers group, our chronic pain group, and a group for those who are widowed are currently offered. Please see me or contact Marian Garcia in the church office for information. And now I welcome Pat Snyder and Sue Farnlacher, our pastoral listeners this morning, to read the caring cards and announcements that you submitted in the past week and this morning.
We have 8 caring cards today and 1 announcement. Thanks, Michael. We share the joy and congratulations to Peggy M. as she became engaged to her beloved John. We offer our care, sympathy, and concern to 2 sibling congregations in Cleveland who recently experienced someone disrupting the middle of their Sunday services, proclaiming that they were not following the right biblical ways of worship. Our care and sympathy to Karen Oldham, as her mother, Beverly Oldham, died on February 4th after a long illness. We send our love and healing care to Sylvia H., as she has laryngitis and pneumonia. She is home and recovering and is well cared for by her family and friends. We send our love and healing care to Sherry O., as she has been in the hospital with pneumonia. She does not want calls or visits at this time. We send our love and healing care to Florence J. as she recovers from back surgery this past Thursday. She's hoping to be home today. We send love to Betsy and Guy S., who recently discovered they have COVID. They are, in their words, COVIDing at home. And Betsy and Guy S.'s son, Drew K., who is on the mounted unit of the Denver Sheriff Department, had his horse and work partner, Ghost, die suddenly of colic on Saturday morning. They are all very, very sad. And now for announcements only, we send healing thoughts to a co-worker of Thomas P.'s named Brian. He threw his back out at work, and we don't know if he's hospitalized at this time. Please visit the caring table in Beach Hall after the service each week to say hello to our volunteers and sign caring cards that will be sent to people within our community. And now for the joys and sorrows you lifted up this morning.
We have one that came in for Roslyn and President Carter as he goes through this transition in his life.
So may we hold these joys and sorrows and all those yet unspoken gently in our hearts. Thank you.
I now invite you to rise as you are willing and able to sing hymn number 1017, Building a New Way. together as you are willing, holding hands or putting your hands over your chest. As we extinguish our chalice together with the words on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and love.